Hi, I'm back in my hometown, Brooklyn, for a short stay. I had to return for a family funeral. I'll be back in Bangkok in a few days, on this coming Monday, to resume my commitment to making videos about retired life in Bangkok. But right now, I'm sitting in a very historic place. What took place on this hill that I'm atop changed the course of world history. This is Battle Hill. That's inside Greenwood Cemetery here in Brooklyn. And what took place here in August of 1776 was the first major battle of the American Revolution. The Revolution had started a few weeks earlier up in Boston, up near Boston, where the Revolutionary soldiers of the Continental Army and the Minutemen, famous in history, chased the British out of Boston. And when the British Army and Navy responded, they came ashore not far from here in Gravesend Bay, and led a contingent of Hessian mercenaries, they would be German today, that were under the command of under British command, toward Washington's Continental Army. They very much outnumbered and outpowered Washington's army, and they would have definitely destroyed them were it not for the brave sacrifice of a band of soldiers that stood their ground here on Battle Hill. Hundreds of them were killed, keeping the British Army at bay. They were under heavy fire from the gunboats in Gravesend Bay, and they had heavy casualties. They sustained heavy casualties, but what they did is they delayed the British attack long enough for Washington to escape on boats across the East River to Manhattan. And the Continental Army lived to fight another day and were eventually victorious with the help of the French. But what happened here is not widely remembered. It was called the Battle of Long Island, which is technically accurate. Brooklyn is part of Long Island. But I think of it as the Battle of Brooklyn, where mostly Irish soldiers for the Continental Army stood their ground and withheld a superior force long enough for the Continental Army to escape. It was quite a military feat. Later in history, 1887 to be precise, another Irish immigrant came to New York and prospered. His name was Charles Higgins, and he began the India Ink Company, which he formed to manufacture artistic ink. And his ink became very popular, and still is as far as I know, with tattoo artists and other artists. But it's widely known today as an ink that was preferred by tattooists. He made millions of dollars, became a very wealthy and successful and influential man, Mr. Higgins did. And when he heard the story that I just told you about the sacrifice of the men on Battle Hill made, that resulted in the formation of eventually the United States of America, and the country that helped Mr. Higgins become rich, take advantage of the opportunities that are still available today here in this wonderful country. So what Mr. Higgins did to their legacy is he erected a monument. Way out there in the hazy harbor, you could perhaps make out the green patina that covers the Statue of Liberty. Growing up, I thought the Statue of Liberty was just, a name, a concept attached to the gift from France that stands at the mouth of New York Harbor. But Liberty is actually a mythological figure. So the Statue of Liberty is actually a statue of that particular mythological figure, Liberty. What Mr. Higgins discovered is Liberty, which you can't see from this little camera lens on my iPhone, is facing Battle Hill. The people that erected that statue out in the harbor on a big giant pedestal stands facing where I'm sitting right now. And what Mr. Higgins concluded is that the planners of the statue faced the statue this way in honor of the men who sacrificed themselves here on Battle Hill in the Revolution. Now, there's no historic documentation that confirms that, but you're going to have to come up with different logical explanation to convince me that that's not why the Statue of Liberty was placed on the pedestal facing Battle Hill. And here, Mr. Higgins erected another statue, another mythological figure of Minerva. And he placed Minerva waving back to her sister in the harbor, her sister Liberty in the harbor, in honor of the men who died here. Apart from being a cemetery, Greenwood was at one time kind of a tourist attraction, and it still is kind of although not very well known today, it is still a little bit of a tourist attraction because it is such a beautiful place, reflective of the landscape that existed here before the development of Brooklyn and its integration into New York City. Wealthy people from Manhattan prior to bridges used to come here on ferry boats to spend a day picnicking and just enjoying the kind of bucolic charm of this hill overlooking New York Harbor. Higgins bought a couple of plots and erected Altar to Liberty is inscribed on the bottom of that pedestal where Minerva stands waving to Liberty off in the harbor. And of course, Mr. Higgins built himself a mausoleum where he is now interred behind Minerva. And within that mausoleum are inscriptions that are inspiring. You know, words like loyalty and courage are key ideas to what Mr. Higgins was trying to express in his monument to himself. And right here, off to the left or the right, depending on which way you're facing, is a later monument to Civil War soldiers, New York City Civil War soldiers who died in that conflict later in the history of the United States. But yeah, that's the story of Minerva. Like I said, she's waving to Liberty off in the harbor. And I believe that Liberty was placed facing Battle Hill because of the sacrifice that men made here. Now, again, there's no historical documents to confirm that, but you're going to have to come up with a better explanation to convince me that that's not what occurred. I wish I had a better camera lens so you could see Liberty out there, but there she stands, waving to Minerva and the souls who sacrificed themselves in the Battle of Long Island.